Hello! Happy Friday. Looks like I might be a little out of focus currently. I'll give it a minute. How's everyone? Friday, right, Farm Mouse? Wow. Was that on purpose? Did you mean to Friday? Yes, it was? Okay. Yes, I did. Oh boy. Because, yay. I see a Lily Red Wolf in the chat list. Is that Lily Lily? Is that an alternate account? And is my sound coming through? Even though it's not actually the first day of your weekend. Yeah, that's true. You had a little bit of a longer weekend this time around. Let's Hey Google, turn off kitchen lights. I'm gonna be right back.
Alright, turning 3 lights off.
I return. Oh, way out of focus now. I feel like Sharkies, hello! How are you this fine Friday? I hear in the distance here some neighbors are doing some construction and I just hear a bandsaw running like crazy, so hopefully you all can't hear that over my microphone. Hi Lily! I was just talking to you. So how's everybody's Friday? You have a good week? Oh, got some cobwebs or something on me, or is that just string? It's just string where perhaps a button used to be on this and is no longer. Yes, happy October. Sharky say got off work early and ready to read some TP. Getting off work early is nice, especially on a Friday. So is everyone ready for it to be October? Not that you have much choice in the matter. I had some kind of pumpkin latte from ye old Starbucks today to celebrate, and also take in some caffeine. Terry Pratchett, of course, not the other TP. Yes, I was like 85% certain I understood. There's always a little doubt, just in case. I'm gonna try and take it a little easy this weekend because Farmhouse and I have a very packed weekend next weekend. We've got like 3 days in a row of Thanksgiving to survive. Next Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So that's gonna be draining on the social batteries. And hopefully we don't rupture anything from too much foods. Sharky says October 1st is always the point when the missus panics and wonders if she's if she's far along in costume building. Yeah, we've been having fun the past few years, decorating the house for the neighborhood and whatnot for Halloween. We've done kind of different themes each year, but we're kind of thinking at this point we're going to try and do something a little more generic this year that we can just bring out multiple times in a row because we did one year where we did kind of like an alien theme, and we did one like a jungle tropical, dinosaurs and things. And then this year we're thinking more like alchemist shop, witch's cottage kind of thing. But, more typical, like spiders and bats and pumpkins and whatnot. We'll still try and make it a little spooky. I like having, a scary house, even if we have had a few kids outside that were too afraid to come to our door some of the years. But I don't know. My argument is I think there should be at least one scary house in each neighborhood, right? There should be one house where it's a test of courage to go get the candy. So, I volunteer our house for that task. But we haven't talked too much about actual costumes that we're going to do yet. I don't know. Some kind of use the robe or something like that, maybe. Sharkies don't usually decorate much, but last year you phoned in costumes and instead built a candy slide. Yeah, last year was our dinosaur theme, so we used, I had like a dinosaur mask on, and Farmhouse was dressed up like a pterodactyl, and we had a grabby claw thing, triggered with a claw that we used to give out candy from a distance. Farmhouse is super disappointed in Walmart's decoration quality this year. Also feels like either the Value Village has gone down in its Halloween levels, or it's just the one near us, but there were slim pickings. Yeah, Farmhouse's parents had a lot of fun with the candy slide last year, and they kind of sounded like that was going to be their standard go-to from now on, because they've got a nice balcony with a little railing that only goes down a couple of steps that they could attach the candy slide to, and it apparently worked very well for them. So, this was fun last Wednesday, 2 days ago. What am I saying last week? 2 days ago. But I was just thinking about, all of the voices I had to do, and kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about the idea that Discworld novels probably typically have a lot more dialogue than Tolkien's books. So, and quite large casts of characters, so I'm going to have to do a lot of voices. Sharkies says, I've been reading a lot about retail distribution chains having problems this year. Maybe that extends to shops not getting good Halloween stock. That's interesting. That's going deep. I'm gonna pop out this chat, I think, so that I can see it a little easier. And then let's... There. That'll help. Oh, geez. As I'm leaning in here, I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. A nice Binnabic hair right attached to my hair. Let me just use the camera here as a mirror. I hope you don't mind. Oh, it's still there. Look at the less laggy side of the stream to get it. I got it. I got the Binifer out of my hair. Oh, geez. I really need to spend more time looking in a mirror before I do this, don't I? Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Just grooming myself on stream. That's perfectly normal and acceptable. What's that rattling I hear? Where's the puppy? Oh, I hear clicky little paws. Oh, there he is. Hey, Ben. Hey, puppy. Look at that waggy tail. Oh, good boy. Oh, what a good pose. Look at him posing for the camera. Beautiful. What are you looking at? Hi. You want a treat? I got treats. Puppy. Good boy. Up, up. Oh, little dance. Okay, that's enough. Farmo says, it's like a mirror. Sharky say, as for costumes, one day we dream of going to conventions with impressive costumes, but until then we just put all our efforts into Halloween. Yeah, I feel like Halloween is a good opportunity to kind of, do a cosplay light. To do, you know, budget cosplay, basically. Yeah. I definitely, let's see, what have I done that is cosplay-esque in terms of Halloween costumes? I went as Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop one year. That was fun. Although, I doubt that very many people had any idea that I was even in a costume. And that show's coming out on Netflix soon, the live action adaptation, which they have released the intro trailer for using, which is still using Tank. I was curious whether they were going to still use the same theme song, Tank, because I know that I think it's Yoko Kanno is back to do the soundtrack, who was behind the original amazing Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. So I know that they were doing like an original new soundtrack, so I wasn't sure if they were going to try and stick with Tank, which is such an iconic intro, or do something new. But it seems like they're sticking with Tank, although it might be a very slight variation on it. It maybe sounded a little different. Oh yeah, I did Joker. I did like a Cesar Romero Joker one Halloween. Sharkies watch a lot of YouTubers who make a lot of costumes. I keep looking at the smaller version of the chat. We need to up our tool game, probably a Dremel and or a 3D printer yet. Yeah, we've got a 3D printer. I highly recommend the Ender 3, or like doing some research into Creality's printers. I know there's a new version of the Ender coming out sometime soon that might be worth looking into. But the Ender 3, or like Ender 3 Pro, is a very easy to use machine, especially if you like. There's one guy that we watch a lot of like tutorials and things from that does Dungeons and Dragons terrain with 3D printing. I think I've got a piece or two we printed off around here somewhere. I'm gonna grab that. Just a sec. If I can find it. Oh, here we go. I was looking for, since Farmhouse says not sure what I'm looking for, I was looking for some of the tiles we've been printing out for Dungeons and Dragons. So this is sort of a cavern water tile that Farmhouse has done a little bit of painting on. It's not finished yet. And so you get these, they're divided into 4 1-inch squares, which is great for D&D. And then they clip together on the sides, and so you can assemble whole dungeons or villages, houses and things like that. This is a little campfire we printed out. The flame is made out of is printed in a translucent PLA, and then it's got printed out a slot in the bottom for a flickering LED to go into. So we printed basically the slot for the coin battery. You can get hundreds of coin batteries for like $20, and then packages of flickering LEDs are, I think, like $10 for like 100 of those or something. And so that goes in there. I don't have the battery right near me right now, but you put the battery in there, and then this whole thing flickers, which is pretty cool. Yeah, D&D terrain. So I love this little. You know what? I gotta grab one of the batteries to show you what the finished effect looks like on that. So I think I've got some of the batteries here somewhere. Maybe. Does Farmos know where the batteries is? Are they over here? You know where the batteries are? Oh, wait. Is this? Yeah, here's some. I return. I'm coming back. So this is an example of more of a like actual just floor tile. So you can kind of see how, it looks like a cavern floor, but it's also divided into the D&D grid, which is great for putting minis on and things like that. This is a lightly painted one. There's actually the company, I guess, that provides the files for printing these is called Fat Dragon Games, and they've got like 3 days left on a Kickstarter right now for their Shadow Grove Forest campaign, which will provide a bunch of tiles for doing like an outdoors forest with forest floor with leaves and things on it, and then trees and like little stand things. They're modular trees that you can slot together, and then they've got little stands so that you can put characters into the trees. So if you've got your archer up in a branch or something, and some like forest river tiles, including a bridge to go over. And then also part of the same Kickstarter, they've got a bunch of like clockwork traps and things. So for the dungeon walls, it's like they've got this key that you slot into the wall, and then you twist it, and then spears come out of the wall, or like swinging blades, or like gas clouds, or flames, or things like that. So those are pretty cool. So yeah, these you just use like a CR2032 battery, and if I put it in the right way, which that must not have been, there we go, then you get this flickering, and this was easy, like almost no wiring involved, and then that just goes in the bottom here, and ta-da, you've got your little campfire. I don't know how well you can... Hey Google, turn off computer lights.
Okay, turning 10 lights off.
Oh, a little hair stuck to it, but don't worry, it's not actually hot. So this is something that we printed out and painted, and yeah, it's very cool. This is one of the things that makes me pretty happy about the stuff we've printed. And they've got similar things for like wall torches, where the torch comes out of the wall and you put the battery on the other side of the wall to have a flickering wall torch, or like a table with settings on it and then a little lantern in the center of the table. I really like that one. We've got that printed. Yeah. Yeah, now I'm just talking about printing stuff, and we're just about 20 minutes in. All right, I should probably get back to the book, huh? Hey Google, turn on computer lights and turn off kitchen lights.
Sure, turning 10 lights on. All right, turning 3 lights off.
But yeah, so, sorry, somebody mentioned, the Sharkies mentioned 3D printers, and I got sidetracked. I have been a little bit D&D on the brain recently. I'm kind of debating trying to, I don't know, thinking about doing some kind of game-related thing. Okay, so, yes, those things that Farmhouse just mentioned are worth checking out, and I would definitely check out their current Kickstarter, because it's only got like 3 days left, and that's pretty fun. Shadow Grove Forest. I am not endorsed by Fat Dragon Games. This is not a paid advertisement. I'm just enthusiastic. So, guards. We read how many pages? 31 pages, basically. 31 and a little bit on Wednesday. Which was, we got a brief introduction to a drunken Sam Vimes, a brief introduction to Ankh-Morpork, and a very thorough introduction to the, I think, the Elucidated Brotherhood. Let me just, the Elucidated Brethren. Sorry, did you say Elucidated Brethren? Sorry, wrong society, I'm afraid. We also got a brief introduction to the Librarian as well, and L-Space. Yes, the Elucidated Brethren of the Ebon Knight. 3 doors down. Shark, you say, so we have the exact same pagination in your copy. Oh, but as you said, a different cover. Oh, that's funny. Is brethren gendered? I don't know that there's such a thing as sistren. I'm not certain that brethren is gendered. It might be. I could be completely wrong. That's just I suppose it's sort of like cistern. That is definitely a different word. Wow. Waterfall. Okay. So I think that catches us up roughly onto where we are now. Thunder rolled. It rolled a 6. Why don't we get started? 20 minutes past. Now, pull back briefly from the dripping streets of Ankh-Morpork, pan across the morning mists of the disk, and focus in again on a young man heading for the city with all of the openness, sincerity, and innocence of purpose of an iceberg drifting into a major shipping lane. The young man is called Carrot. This is not because of his hair, which his father has always clipped short for reasons of hygiene. It is because of his shape. It is the kind of tapering shape a boy gets through clean living, healthy eating, and good mountain air in huge lungfuls. When he flexes his shoulder muscles, other muscles have to move out of the way first. He is also bearing a sword presented to him in mysterious circumstances. Very mysterious circumstances. Surprisingly, therefore, there is something very unexpected about this sword. It isn't magical. It hasn't got a name. When you wield it, you don't get a feeling of power, you just get blisters. You could believe it was a sword that had been used so much that it had ceased to be anything other than a quintessential sword, a long piece of metal with very sharp edges. And it hasn't got destiny written all over it. It's practically unique, in fact. Thunder rolled. The gutters of the city gurgled softly as the detritus of the night was carried along, in some cases protesting feebly. When it came to the recumbent figure of Captain Vimes, the water diverted and flowed around him in 2 streams. Vimes opened his eyes. There was a moment of empty peace before memory hit him like a shovel. It had been a bad day for the watch. There had been the funeral of Herbert Gaskin, for one thing. Poor old Gaskin. He had broken one of the fundamental rules of being a guard. It wasn't the sort of rule that someone like Gaskin could break twice. And so he'd been lowered into the sodden ground with the rain drumming on his coffin, and no one present to mourn him but the 3 surviving members of the Night Watch, the most despised group of men in the entire city. Sergeant Colin had been in tears. Poor old Gaskin. Poor old Vimes, Vimes thought. Poor old Vimes, here in gutter. But that's where he started. Poor old Vimes, with the water swirling in under breastplate. Poor old Vimes, watching rest of gutter's contents ooze by. Probably even poor old Gaskin has got better view now, he thought. Let's see. He'd gone off after the funeral and got drunk. No, not drunk. Another word. Ended with Drunk-er. That was it. Because world all twisted up and wrong, like distorted glass. Only came back into focus if you looked at it through bottom of bottle. Something else now. What was it? Oh, yes. Nighttime. Time for duty. Not for Gaskin, though. Have to get New Fellow. New Fellow coming anyway, wasn't that it? Some stick from the Hicks. Written letter. Some tick from the Shicks. Vimes gave up and slumped back. The gutter continued to swirl. Overhead, the lighted letters fizzed and flickered in the rain. It wasn't only the fresh mountain air that had given Carrot his huge physique. Being brought up in a gold mine run by dwarfs and working a 12-hour day hauling wagons to the surface must have helped. He walked with a stoop. What will do that is being brought up in a gold mine run by dwarfs who thought that 5 feet was a good height for a ceiling. He'd always known he was different. More bruised, for one thing. And then, one day, his father had come up to him, or rather, come up to his waist, and told him that he was not, in fact, as he had always believed, a dwarf. It's a terrible thing to be nearly 16 and the wrong species. "We didn't like to say so before, son," said his father. "We thought you'd grow out of it, see?" "Grow out of what?" said Carrot. "Growing. But now your mother thinks, that is, we both think, it's time you went out among your own kind. I mean, it's not fair, keeping you cooped up here without company of your own height." His father twiddled a loose rivet on his helmet, a sure sign that he was worried. He added. "But you're my kind," said Carrot desperately. "In a manner of speaking, yes," said his father. "In another manner of speaking, which is a rather more precise and accurate manner of speaking, no. It's all this genetics business, you see, so it might be a very good idea if you were to go out and see something of the world." "What, for good?" "Oh, no, of course not. Come back and visit whenever you like. But, well, a lad your age, stuck down here, it's not right. You know, I mean, not a child anymore. Having to shuffle around on your knees most of the time and everything, it's not right." "Where is my own kind, then?" said Carrot, bewildered. The old dwarf took a deep breath. "You're human," he said. "What, like Mr. Varneshy?" Mr. Varneshy drove an ox cart up the mountain trails once a week to trade things for gold. "One of the big people?" "You're 6'6", lad. He's only 5 foot. The dwarf twiddled the loose rivet again. "You see how it is." "Yes, but maybe I'm just tall for my height," said Carrot desperately. "After all, if you can have short humans, can't you have tall dwarfs?" His father patted him companionably on the back of the knees. Wow, I mangled that one. That felt like a tongue twister. Farmhouse just quoting lines. Oh, capital D, bad day. It wasn't actually capitalized. I just felt it needed to be said that way. Companionably. Tricky word, yes. Companionably. See, I can say it. Companionably. You know what? You try it. You try saying it out loud. See how you manage. His father patted him companionably on the back of the knees. "You've got to face facts, boy. You'd be much more at home up on the surface. It's in your blood. The roof isn't so low either." "You can't keep knocking yourself out on the sky," he told himself. "Hold on," said Carrot, his honest brow wrinkling with the effort of calculation. "You're a dwarf, right? And Mam's a dwarf. So I should be a dwarf too. Fact of life." The dwarf sighed. He'd hoped to creep up on this, over a period of months maybe, sort of break it to him gently. But there wasn't any time anymore. "Sit down, lad," he said. Carrot sat. "The thing is," he said wretchedly, when the boy's big honest face was a little nearer his own, "we found you in the woods one day, toddling about near one of the tracks. The loose rivet squeaked. The dwarf plunged on. "Thing is, you see, there were these carts, on fire, as you might say, and dead people. Yes, extremely dead people. Because of bandits. It was a bad winter that winter. There were all sorts of coming into the hills. So we took you in, of course, and then, well, it was a long winter, like I said, and your mam got used to you, and, well, we never got around to asking Varneshi to make enquiries. That's the long and short of it." I'm feeling like maybe I missed a footnote here somewhere, like I talked about before this could happen. Or are they both? Because there's 2 footnotes on this page. Oh, no, they're both ahead still. I was reaching the end of the page and I saw there were 2 footnotes and I'm like, did I miss one? All right. Carrot took this fairly calmly, mostly because he didn't understand nearly all of it. Besides, as far as he was aware, being found toddling in the woods was the normal method of childbirth. A dwarf is not considered old enough to have the technical processes explained to him until he has reached puberty. All right, so after him, we have footnote 1. The pronoun is used by dwarfs to indicate both sexes. All dwarfs have beards and wear up to 12 layers of clothing. Gender is more or less optional. And then, after the word puberty, we have footnote 2, i.e. about 55. Some interesting notes about dwarf society. I love that. Gender is more or less optional. All right. "All right, Dad," he said, and he leaned down so as to be level with the dwarf's ear. "But me and, Minty Rocksmacker? She's really beautiful, Dad." That's interesting. Here he goes using she. Apparently he's getting it wrong immediately. "She's really beautiful, Dad. Got a beard as soft as a very soft thing. We've got an understanding, and..." "Yes," said the dwarf coldly. "I know. Her father's had a word with me. So did her mother with your mother," he added silently, "and then she had a word with me. Lots of words. It's not that they don't like you. You're a steady lad and a fine worker. You'd make a good son-in-law. 4 good sons-in-law. That's the trouble. And she's only 60 anyway. It's not proper. It's not right." He'd heard about children being reared by wolves. He'd wondered whether the leader of the pack ever had to sort out something tricky like this. Perhaps he'd have to take him into a quiet clearing somewhere and say, "Look, son, you might have wondered why you're not as hairy as everyone else." He'd discussed it with Varneshi. A good solid man, Varneshi. Of course, he'd known the man's father, and his grandfather, now he came to think about it. Humans didn't seem to last long. It was probably all the effort of pumping blood up that high. "Got a problem there, King." Footnote 1. Literally, Deska Nick, mine supervisor. "Right enough," the old man had said, as they shared a nip of spirits on a bench outside shaft number 2. "He's a good lad, mind you," said the king. "Sound character. Honest. Not exactly brilliant, but you tell him to do something, he don't rest until it's done. Until he's done it. Obedient." "You could chop his legs off," said Varneshi. "It's not his legs that's going to be the problem," said the king darkly. Ah, yes. Well, in that case, you could. No. No, agreed Varneshi thoughtfully. Hmm. Well, then, what you should do is, you should send him away for a bit. Let him mix a bit with humans. He sat back. What you've got here, King, is a duck, he added in knowledgeable tones. I don't think I should tell him that. He's refusing to believe he's a human as it is. What I mean is, a duck brought up among chickens. Well-known farmyard phenomenon. Finds it can't bloody well peck and doesn't know what swimming is. The king listened politely. Dwarfs don't go in much for agriculture. But you send him off to see a lot of other ducks, let him get his feet wet, and he won't go running around after bantams anymore. And Bob's your uncle. Varneshi sat back and looked rather pleased with himself. When you spend a large part of your life underground, you develop a very literal mind. Dwarfs have no use for metaphor and simile. Rocks are hard, the darkness is dark. Start messing around with descriptions like that, and you're in big trouble, is their motto. But after 200 years of talking to humans, the king had, as it were, developed a painstaking mental toolkit which was nearly adequate for the job of understanding them. Surely Bjorn Strong in the Arm is my uncle, he pointed out slowly. Same thing. There was a pause while the king subjected this to careful analysis. You're saying, he said, weighing each word, that we should send Carrot away to be a duck among humans because Bjorn Strong in the Arm is my uncle. He's a fine lad. Plenty of openings for a big, strong lad like him, said Varneshi. I have heard that dwarfs go off to work in the big city, said the king uncertainly. That was capitalized. And they send back money to their families, which is very commendable and proper. There you are, then. Get him a job in... Varneshi sought for inspiration. In the watch, or something. My great-grandfather was in the watch, you know. Fine job for a big lad, my granddad said. What is a watch? Said the king. Oh, said Varneshi, with the vagueness of someone whose family for the last 3 generations hadn't traveled more than 20 miles. They goes about making sure people keep the laws and do what they're told. That is a very proper concern, said the king, who, since he was usually the one doing the telling, had very solid views about people doing what they were told. Of course, they don't take just anyone, said Varneshi, dredging the depths of his recollection. I should think not, for such an important task. I shall write to their king. I don't think they have a king there, said Varneshi. Just some man who tells them what to do. The king of the dwarfs took this calmly. This seemed to be about 97% of the definition of kingship as far as he was concerned. Carrot took the news without fuss, just as he took instructions about reopening shaft number 4 or cutting timber for shoring props. All dwarfs are by nature dutiful, serious, literate, obedient, and thoughtful people, whose only minor failing is a tendency, after one drink, to rush at enemies screaming, "Arg!" and axing their legs off at the knee. Carrot saw no reason to be any different. He would go to the city, whatever that was, and have a man made of him. They only took the finest, Varneshy had said. A watchman had to be a skilled fighter and clean in thought, word, and deed. From the depths of his ancestral anecdotage, the old man had dragged tales of moonlight chases across rooftops and tremendous battles with miscreants which, of course, his great-granddad had won despite being heavily outnumbered. Carrot had to admit it sounded better than mining. After some thought, the king wrote to the ruler of Ankh-Morpork, respectfully asking if Carrot could be considered for a place among the city for a place amongst the city's finest. Letters rarely got written in that mine. Work stopped, and the whole clan had sat around in respectful silence as his pen skrittered across the parchment. Yep, that says skrittered. His aunt had been sent up to Varneshy's to beg his pardon, but could he see his way clear to sparing a smidgen of wax? His sister had been sent down to the village to ask Mistress Garlic the witch how you stopped spelling recommendation. Oh boy, I'm missing lots here. Farmhouse grow out of growing, talking about companionably. Reminding you of the movie Elf. Yep, that definitely. This definitely came first, but yes, the dwarf or the human raised thinking that he's a member of another fantasy race. Idioms are hard, especially if you don't use them. 3% of being king is the clothing choices, crowns and ermine. Sharky's was going to say the exact same thing. Skrittered is spelled with a C in this case. S-C-R. Otherwise you got it right. Okay, so his sister had been sent down to the village to ask Mistress Garlic the witch how you stopped spelling recommendation. Months had gone by. And then there'd been the reply. It was fairly grubby, since mail in the Ramtops was generally handed to whoever was going in more or less the right direction, and it was also fairly short. It said, baldly, that his application was accepted, and would he present himself for duty immediately. "Just like that?" he said. "I thought there'd be tests and things, to see if I was suitable." "You're my son," said the king. "I told them that. See? Stands to reason you'll be suitable. Probably officer material." He'd pulled a sack from under his chair, rummaged around in it, and presented Carrot with a length of metal. More a sword than a saw, but only just. "This might rightly belong to you," he said. "When we found the carts, this was the only thing left. The bandits, you see. Just between you and me," he beckoned Carrot closer, "we had a witch look at it, in case it was magic. But it isn't. Quite the most unmagical sword she'd ever seen, she said. They normally have a bit, see, on account of it's like magnetism, I suppose. Got quite a nice balance, though." He handed it over. He rummaged around some more. "And then there's this." He held up a shirt. "It'll protect you." Carrot fingered it carefully. It was made from the wool of Ramtop sheep, which had all the warmth and softness of hog bristles. It was one of the legendary woolly dwarf vests, the kind of vest that needs hinges. "Protect me from what?" he said. "Colds and so on," said the king. "Your mother says you've got to wear it. And, that reminds me. Mr. Varneshy says he'd like you to drop in on the way down the mountain. He's got something for you." I love that. "You've got to wear this. It'll protect you." From what? Colds and things. His father and mother had waved him out of sight. Minty didn't. Funny that. She seemed to have been avoiding him lately. He'd taken the sword, slung on his back, sandwiches and clean underwear in his pack, and the world, more or less, at his feet. In his pocket was the famous letter from the patrician, the man who ruled the great fine city of Ankh-Morpork. At least, that's how his mother had referred to it. It certainly had an important-looking crest at the top, but the signature was something like Lupin Squiggle Seki PP. Still, if it wasn't actually signed by the patrician, then it had certainly been written by someone who worked for him, or in the same building. Probably the patrician had at least known about the letter. In general terms, not this letter perhaps, but probably he knew about the existence of letters in general. Carrot walked steadfastly down the mountain paths, disturbing clouds of bumblebees. After a while, he unsheathed the sword and made experimental stabs at felonious tree stumps and unlawful assemblies of stinging nettles. Varneshi was sitting outside his hut, threading dried mushrooms on a string. "Hello, Carrot," he said, leading the way inside. "Looking forward to the city?" Carrot gave this due consideration. "No," he said. "Having second thoughts, are you?" "No, I was just walking along," said Carrot honestly. "I wasn't thinking about anything much." "Your dad gave you the sword, did he?" said Varneshi, rummaging on a fetid shelf. "Yes, and a woolly vest to protect me against chills." "Ah, yes, it can be very damp down there, so I've heard. Protection. Very important." He turned around and added dramatically, "This belonged to my great-grandfather." It was a strange, vaguely hemispherical device surrounded by straps. "It's some sort of sling?" said Carrot, after examining it in polite silence. Varneshi told him what it was. "Codpiece, like in fish?" said Carrot, mystified. "No, it's for the fighting," mumbled Varneshi. "You should wear it all the time. Protects your vitals, like." Carrot tried it on. "It's a bit small, Mr. Varneshi." "That's because you don't wear it on your head, you see." Varneshi explained some more, to Carrot's mounting bewilderment and, subsequently, horror. "My great-granddad used to say," Varneshi finished, "that but for this, I wouldn't be here today." "What did he mean by that?" Varneshi's mouth opened and shut a few times. "I've no idea," he said spinelessly. Anyway, the shameful thing was now at the very bottom of Carrot's pack. Dwarfs didn't have much truck with things like that. The ghastly preventative represented a glimpse into a world as alien as the backside of the moon. There had been another gift from Mr. Varneshi. It was a very small but very thick book, bound in a leather that had become like wood over the years. It was called The Laws and Ordinances of the Cities of Ankh and Morpork. "This belonged to my great-granddad as well," he said. "This is what the watch has to know. You have to know all the laws," he said virtuously, "to be a good officer." Perhaps Varneshi should have recalled that, in the whole of Carrot's life, no one had ever really lied to him or given him an instruction that he wasn't meant to take quite literally. Carrot solemnly took the book. It would never have occurred to him, if he was going to be an officer of the watch, to be less than a good one. It was a 500-mile journey, and surprisingly, quite uneventful. People who are rather more than 6 feet tall and nearly as broad across the shoulders often have uneventful journeys. People jump out at them from behind rocks, then say things like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else." He'd spent most of the journey reading. And now, Ankh-Morpork was before him. It was a little disappointing. He'd expected high white towers rearing over the landscape, and flags. Ankh-Morpork didn't rear. Rather, it sort of skulked, clinging to the soil as if it afraid someone might steal it. There were no flags. There was a guard on the gate. At least he was wearing chainmail, and the thing he was propped up against was a spear. He had to be a guard. Carrot saluted him and presented the letter. The man looked at it for some time. He said, eventually. "I think I've got to see Lupin Squiggle Seki PP," said Carrot. "What's the PP for?" said the guard suspiciously. "Could it be pretty promptly?" said Carrot, who had wondered about this himself. "Well, I don't know about any Seki," said the guard. "You want Captain Vimes of the Night Watch." "And where is he based?" said Carrot politely. "At this time of day I'd try the Bunch of Grapes in Easy Street," said the guard. He looked Carrot up and down. "Joining the watch, are you?" "I hope to prove worthy, yes," said Carrot. The guard gave him what could loosely be called an old-fashioned look. It was practically Neolithic. "What was it you done?" he said. "I'm sorry," said Carrot. "You must have done something," said the guard. "My father wrote a letter," said Carrot proudly. "I've been volunteered." "Bloody hellfire," said the guard. Now it was night again, and beyond the dread portal. Oh boy. What time is it? 7:53? I think we can go a little bit further. Sharkies can't help but feel like the vest is a direct satire of Mithril. Yeah, Mithril. Yeah, I think so. It'll protect you against colds and such. Your mom said you've got to wear it. Probably knew about letters. Farmo says, especially in this book, I think of Carrot having a, Dudley Do-Right style of voice. I hope the one I'm doing is good enough. To protect against chills. Red and DD voice in my head. Do I need to change cloaks? Alright. Let me see how many of these voices I can remember from last time. "Are the wheels of torment duly spun?" said the Supreme Grand Master. The elucidated brethren shuffled around their circle. "Brother Watchtower," said the Supreme Grand Master. "Not my job to spin the wheels of torment," muttered Brother Watchtower. That didn't really sound like a mutter, but whatever. "It's Brother Blasterer's job spinning the wheels of torment." See. "No, it bloody well isn't. It's my job to oil the axles of the Universal Lemon," said Brother Plasterer hotly. "You always say it's my job." The Supreme Grand Master sighed in the depths of his cowl as yet another row began. From this dross he was going to forge an age of rationality? "Just shut up, will you?" he snapped. "We don't really need the wheels of torment tonight. Stop it, the pair of you! Now, brethren, you have all brought the items as instructed." There was a general murmuring. "Place them in the circle of conjuration, said the Supreme Grand Master. It was a sorry collection. Bring magical things, he'd said. Only Brother Fingers had produced anything worthwhile. It looked like some sort of altar ornament, best not to ask from where. The Supreme Grand Master stepped forward and prodded one of the other things with his toe. What, he said, is this? It's an amulet. Amulet, muttered Brother Dunnikin. It's very powerful. Bought it off a man. Guaranteed. Protects you against crocodile bites. Are you sure you can spare it? Said the Supreme Grand Master. There is a dutiful titter from the rest of the brethren. Less of that, brothers, said the Grand Master, spinning around. Bring magical things, I said. Not cheap jewelry and rubbish. Good grief, this city is lousy with magic. He reached down. What are these things, for heaven's sake? They're stones, said Brother Plasterer uncertainly. I can see that. Why are they magical? Brother Plasterer began to tremble. They've got holes in them, Supreme Grand Master. Everyone knows that stones with holes in them are magical. The Supreme Grand Master walked back to his place on the circle. He threw his arms up. Right, fine, okay, he said wearily. If that's how we're going to do it, that's how we're going to do it. If we get a dragon 6 inches long, we'll all know the reason why. Won't we, Brother Plasterer? Brother Plasterer? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Brother Plasterer? I said yes, Supreme Grand Master, whispered Brother Plasterer. Very well, so long as that's quite understood. The Supreme Grand Master turned and picked up the book. And now, if we are all quite ready... Brother Watchtower meekly raised his hand. Farmo says, stands to reason. Stones, holes in them, equals magic. Ready for what, Supreme Grand Master? He said. For the summoning, of course. Good grief, I should have thought... But you haven't told us what we're supposed to do, Supreme Grand Master, whined Brother Watchtower. The Grand Master hesitated. This was quite true, but he wasn't going to admit it. Well, of course, he said, it's obvious. You have to focus your concentration. Think hard about dragons, he translated. All of you. That's all, is it? Said Brother Doorkeeper. Yes. Don't we have to chant a mystic prune or something? The Supreme Grand Master stared at him. Brother Doorkeeper managed to look as defiant in the face of oppression as an anonymous shadow in a black cowl could look. He hadn't joined a secret society not to chant mystic runes. He'd been looking forward to it. You can if you like, said the Supreme Grand Master. Now, I want you... Yes, what is it, Brother Dunnikin? The little brother lowered his hand. Don't know any mystic prunes, Grand Master. Not what you might call chant. He opened the book. He'd been rather surprised to find, after pages and pages of pious ramblings, that the actual summoning itself was one short sentence. Not a chant, not a brief piece of poetry, but a mere assemblage of meaningless syllables. Demelechite said they caused interference patterns in the waves of reality, but the daft old fool was probably making it up as he went along. That was the trouble with wizards. They had to make everything look difficult. All you really needed was willpower, and the brethren had a lot of that. Small-minded and vitriolic willpower, yes. Lousy with malignity, maybe, but still powerful enough in its way. They'd try nothing fancy this time around. Somewhere inconspicuous. Around him, the brethren were chanting what each man considered, according to his lights, to be something mystical. The general effect was actually quite good if you didn't listen to the words. The words, oh yes. He looked down and spoke them aloud. Nothing happened. He blinked. When he opened his eyes again, he was in a dark alley. His stomach was full of fire, and he was very angry. I'm not actually certain whether he said the word hum or just hummed there. Yeah, maybe. Could have been a command to hum. Maybe, maybe not. The Sharkies, a themed dinner dessert, might involve some variation on mystic prunes. You know, I'm not so certain I would have the appetite for mystic prunes, personally. If it were offered, I don't know. In general, I tend to avoid prunes. It was about to be the worst night of his life for Zebo Muti, thief 3rd class. And it wouldn't have made him any happier to know that it was also going to be the last one. The rain was keeping people indoors, and he was way behind on his quota. He was, therefore, a little less cautious than he might otherwise have been. What time is it? It's just past 8. Right. In the nighttime streets of Ankh-Morpork, caution is an absolute. There is no such thing as moderately cautious. You are either very cautious, or you are dead. You might be walking around and breathing, but you're dead just the same. He heard the muffled sounds coming from the nearby alley, slid his leather-bound kosh from his sleeve, waited until the victim was almost turning the corner, sprang out, said, "Oh shit," and died. It was a most unusual death. No one else had died like that for hundreds of years. The stone wall behind him glowed cherry red with heat, which gradually faded into darkness. He was the first to see the Ankh-Morpork dragon. He derived little comfort from knowing this, however, because he was dead. "Tch," he said, and his disembodied self looked down at the small heap of charcoal, which he knew with an unfamiliar sort of certainty was what he had just been disembodied from. It was a strange sensation, seeing your own mortal remains. He didn't find it as horrifying as he would have imagined if you'd asked him, say, 10 minutes ago. Finding that you are dead is mitigated by also finding that there really is a you who can find you dead. The alley opposite was empty again. "That was really strange," said Muti. "Extremely unusual, certainly." See, this is a tough one. A Terry Pratchett trademark is the death is all capitalized. I think even in Good Omens, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. So, my best death voice, I'm not certain. "Extremely unusual, certainly." "Did you see that? What was it?" Muti looked up at the dark figure emerging from the shadows. "Who are you, anyway?" he added suspiciously. "Guess," said the voice. Muti peered at the hooded figure. "Core," he said. "I thought you didn't turn up for the likes of me."
I turn up for everyone.
I mean, in person, sort of thing.
Sometimes. On special occasions.
Yeah, well, said Moody. This is one of them, all right. I mean, it looked like a bloody dragon. What's a man to do? You don't expect to find a dragon around the corner.
And now, if you would care to step this way,
said Death, laying a skeletal hand on Mooty's shoulder. Do you know, a fortune teller once told me I'd die in my bed, surrounded by grieving great-grandchildren, said Mooty, following the stately figure. What do you think of that, eh?
I think she was wrong.
A bloody dragon, said Moody. Fire-breathing, too. Did I suffer much?
No, it was practically instantaneous.
That's good. I wouldn't like to think I'd suffered much. Moody looked around him. What happens now? He said. Behind them, the rain washed the little heap of black ash into the mud. Sharky say, I believe his voice was described to be something like the knocking of a tombstone. I don't know if I can do that. Firemouse man, Christopher Lee has done a great job of his voice in a few of the movies. Yeah, Sharkies agree with that. He was not in the Good Omens series, I don't think. Death is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Yeah, I just remember in the book, I think Death was written in the same all caps fashion. I think. And Pharma says I meant that Christopher Lee wasn't his voice in Good Omens. Yes, yeah, in the series of Good Omens, which was very enjoyable. I would, if you have not watched the television, I guess Amazon adaptation. I think it's Amazon, right? I think it was on Amazon. The Amazon adaptation of Good Omens, absolutely worth watching. Very well done, and of course. I'm going to blank on the names now. Michael... What are the names? Michael and David Tennant were great in it as Crowley and... I was going to say Alistair, but that's not right. I'm just blanking on names from other works right now. Michael Sheen. Aziraphale, yes. Aziraphale and Crowley. Very well done. Absolutely worth watching. It's 8:08 now, and I think that's probably a good... let me just take a look at how long this next little bit is. Let's read the next, 3 pages to finish up this thought. if you don't mind. The Supreme Grand Master opened his eyes. He was lying on his back. Brother Dunnikin was preparing to give him the kiss of life. The mere thought was enough to jerk anyone from the borders of consciousness. He sat up, trying to shed the feeling that he weighed several tons and was covered in scales. "We did it," he whispered. "The dragon! It came! I felt it!" The brethren glanced at one another.
"We never saw nothin'," said Brother Plasterer.
"I might have seen something," said Brother Watchtower loyally. "No, not here," snapped the Supreme Grand Master. "You hardly want it to materialize here, do you? It was out there, in the city, just for a few seconds." He pointed. "Look!" The brethren turned around guiltily, expecting at any moment the hot flame of retribution. In the center of the circle, the magic items were gently crumbling to dust. Even as they watched, Brother Dunnikin's amulet collapsed. "Sucked it dry," whispered Brother Fingers. "I'll be damned." $3 that amulet cost me, muttered Brother Dunnikin. "But it proves it works," said the Supreme Grandmaster. "Don't you see, you fools? It works! We can summon dragons! Could be a bit expensive in magical items, said Brother Fingers doubtfully. $3 it was, no rubbish. Power, growled the Supreme Grandmaster, does not come cheap. Very true, nodded Brother Watchtower. Not cheap, very true. He looked at the little heap of exhausted magic again. Core, he said. We did it, though, didn't we? We only went and bloody well did some magic, right? See, said Brother Fingers, I told you there was nothing to it. You all did exceptionally well, said the Supreme Grandmaster encouragingly. Should have been $6, but he said he'd cut his own throat and sell it to me for $3. Yeah, said Brother Watchtower. We got the hang of it all right. Didn't hurt a bit. We done real magic. And didn't get et by tooth fairies from out the woodwork either, Brother Plasterer, I couldn't help noticing. The other brethren nodded. Real magic. Nothing to it. Everyone had just better watch out. Hang on, though. Wait, nope. Let me redo that one. Hang on, though. There we go, said Brother Plasterer. Where's this dragon gone? I mean, did we really summon it or not? Fancy you asking a silly question like that, said Brother Watchtower doubtfully. The Supreme Grandmaster brushed the dust off his mystic robe. We summoned it, he said, and it came, but only as long as the magic lasted. Then it went back. If we want it to stay longer, we need more magic. Understand? And that is what we must get. $3 I shan't see again in a hurry. Shut up! Wow. Sharky says farmhouse and the missus echoing, I see. First time I've noticed Ankh-Morpork's currency in dollars when Pratchett is British. Oh yeah, says farmhouse. Oh, Brother Dunnikin, muttering away. Yeah, Ankh-Morpork dollars. I think that's pretty consistent. From what I'm remembering, that's how it goes. I wonder if that's intentional. I wonder if that's a reference to a certain other country. Sharky says, it was called for, and it came. That much is certain. It came. Oh, boy. What was I thinking about with that play recently? Something else brought it to mind. I'm not sure. So that was fun. Dragon. Poor, that was a strange name that one thief had. Pratchett certainly does not put a lot of thought into coming up with normal sounding names, I think. Zebo Muti. Or I guess, some of them sound normal in that abnormal way, right? They sound like a strange name, but a strange name that someone might actually have, somewhere in the world, especially somewhere in Britain. Mooty. Zebo I'm not so certain about, but I could definitely see myself running into a Mooty. Oh, hey, look who it is. It's Robot Kyo. The other country is obviously Australia. Oh, look at you, have you been here the whole time, or did you just show up? Farmo says, I know he's mentioned that Ankh-Morpork is supposed to be some kind of amalgam of a bunch of different cities, including, I'm fairly certain, New York. And also, Robot Q, this isn't Australia. Australia is in this world. It's the counterweight continent. Wait, is it the counterweight continent, or is it like X. Roak, you just wanted to go with another place with dollars. You were in it companionably? Okay, alright, so you've been here for most of it. Both the Sharkies say, I think when I first read this book, I didn't expect the Brethren's magic to actually work. I think that's part of what makes this book brilliant. Yeah, is that they grab a bunch of like random supposedly magic things, toss them in a circle, say some syllables out of a book, and think about it real hard, and bam, you possess yourself a dragon and manifest yourself a dragon. Yeah, I think that's in the second Discworld book, isn't it? The Counterweight Continent, where they visit, and it's one of the rinse. Not the second one. It's one of the earlier ones. It's one of the ones with Rincewind and possibly Two Flower. It's a later book. Oh, okay. But yeah, Rincewind ends up stranded, I think, in the Counterweight Continent. Basically invents Vegemite at one point. Has a hat with corks dangling from it. Lots of, that kind of stereotype type stuff. Sharkies don't recall it and have only read up to book 9. Oh, okay. The Last Continent, maybe, I think it's called. That sounds familiar. Yeah, maybe. Let's see if it's in... there's a list of them. When this book was published, it looks like they went up to 36 Discworld novels. I've definitely read... Although, actually... Is The Amazing Morris and His Educated Rodents, is that one a Discworld novel? It says for younger readers. Yeah, book number 22 is The Last Continent. And there's definitely more than that are out now. Oh, boy. And honestly, I've read most of them. All except for maybe the last couple. I read partway through Snuff, but it was a little... I should go back and finish the books. To be honest, I should finish the last few. Just things in some of them were getting really dark and not really all that funny anymore. Just check that Wikipedia picture. What? Let's take a look. What are you linking? The Discworld Reading Order Guide. Wow. Science novels, Rincewind novels, Industrial Revolution. The World of Pooh? What? That must be another one of the kids' books. Educated Rodents looks to be in the world. All right. So, something that Ms. Lily was reminding me. I'm curious, does anyone in the chat actually read other, watch other Twitch streamers at all? Because I hate to admit it, but I don't actually really use Twitch myself except for actually doing this stream. And when a friend of mine was doing his stream, I would check in and support him, but I don't have other Twitch streamers that I really follow. But Ms. Lily was reminding me that I should, to be a good Twitch etiquette, I should probably host a raid at the end of streams and raid on to someone else. Oh, and speaking of, go raid my friend MDW 19873. He's playing New World. Or Duo MTL. Yeah, sure. So I'll just post a raid thing if anyone wants to do that. He's playing Hades. Oh, I like Hades. Let's do that. Let me see. I think I can just /raid, right? Does this word work? He's a Canadian from Montreal that does cross-stitch on the weekend. Well, okay, cool. It looks like that worked. So yeah, if anyone wants to raid someone, if you haven't seen Hades before, it's a very cool looking game. Seems like a lot of fun. I've watched a lot of gameplay of that, but I haven't played it myself. There should be a link. It says 5 viewers are ready to raid, so maybe there isn't. Maybe I just raid out. So just stick around. So yeah, this was fun. Thank you for joining me once again. I'll auto drag you along. Yeah. So again, as a reminder, not doing Mondays anymore. So we won't be here next Monday, but it will be next Wednesday when we continue on. And I think we rejoin Carrot. Yes. We rejoin Carrot in his first foray into Ankh-Morpork, which will be a lot of fun. Seeing a city like Ankh-Morpork through a point of view like Carrot's, I think, is a great, like, just a brilliant juxtaposition in this book. Just the Carrot is this, you know, honest, straightforward man, and you could never describe Ankh-Morpork as ever being honest or straightforward, except for maybe if you were getting that in the ribs. Whoa, what? Oh, hey, the raid started.